And so there I was in France with some friends sitting in the kitchen, having a little chat. And then one of our friends, the phone rang, and we heard this squeaky little sound coming out of the phone. I thought, what's going on? And it was a young girl on the phone, and her mum was saying to her, "You're on the wrong bus? You think you're on the wrong bus? So, okay, when the bus stops, go and ask the driver which bus you're on and where you are." And then that was followed by another little squeaky noise, and it sounded like the poor thing was so distressed. This little squeaky sound came out of the phone, and we were all kind of, just listening, and kind of, there's nothing that we could do apart from just kind of give like a kind of sort of vibrational support to just hope that everything was going to work out okay, because it sounded quite a frightening situation. And her mum handled it absolutely brilliantly and was very, very calm. And she said, "Okay, when the bus stops, go and give the phone to the driver and let me speak to him." And then once again there was this little squeaky noise that came out, and eventually we heard her say, "Okay, so you're off the bus. Okay, right, what can you see?" And this little voice said, "A roundabout." And eventually, someone just happened to just come along who knew this little girl, who knew her sister, and knew where she lived, and helped identify the place where she was. And of course, her mum zoomed off to pick her up, and everything happened happily ever after. And that was interesting in terms of this context of how easy it is to just be going about our normal routine, coming out of school, coming out of work or whatever, and suddenly finding ourselves in a situation where we're not quite sure where we are. And it could happen very easily, where suddenly the kind of the rug of our sort of some kind of perceived certainty suddenly gets shifted, and we're not quite sure where we are. So a few days later, I was on my way back, and I was on a train, and you can probably guess what happened next, when I suddenly thought, am I on the fast train or the slow train, and should I get off at the next station? And I kind of looked round, and everyone kind of looked sort of busy and maybe a little bit kind of serious, and I thought, I should ask this guy over here, but he looks really busy on his laptop, and maybe should I ask him? And then I, of course, remembered this crazy situation. That it was like, here I am, so much older than this little girl, and I'm still feeling uncomfortable about asking a stranger where I am. And so anyway, I thought, this is ridiculous. So I just leaned over to ask this chap, and I said, "Excuse me, I hardly ever travel on trains, and can you tell me, which train this is, or how I can find out what time I arrive?" And he turned around with this big beaming smile, and he said, "Oh yeah, no problem." And he was so friendly, and it just made me think. It was like there's this kind of feeling of not trusting that there's going to be a solution offered to you, or that there's going to be a friendly face, or an easy answer, if we just have a little bit of courage just to ask, "Where am I?" And within a few minutes there was an announcement that Oxford was the next stop, and it was all really, really easy. But it really kind of shocked me a little bit to think that even though I may think that I have certain knowledge about things and kind of mature or grown up, whatever, that still there is this kind of frightened little child inside, and it's and this is something that I was really exploring in this trip to France, where I met some really extraordinary people who were helping me get to this place of authenticity that I wasn't really working on while I was here, just being away on a service project. And thinking that I knew things from hearing lots of information, as we do here, but I wasn't really understanding it on a very, very deep level, and in terms of feelings as well. There was information, but there wasn't the feeling that went with it. And so I've been on a very interesting kind of journey or a trip recently of going through discovering a lot of powerful feelings, and acknowledging what there is inside in terms of fears and greatness all together. And it's been very, very revealing. So something that I'd like to look at here is that if you look at the image behind, what does it bring anything to mind in terms of the symbolism? Because this just came together very, very quickly. And when I look back at it, I thought there's quite a lot in here. So would anyone like to volunteer any things that just come to mind? What your subconscious mind tells you about? Oh, does it? Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, yeah. Don't be afraid to say the absolute obvious.
So the content of everything that we absolutely do is king, in some sense. Our behaviour, everything that we do, the context of it.
Yeah, and graphically. Sorry? Oh, yes, I hadn't seen that one. Yeah, lovely, yeah. And it's got a nice flourish to it, as if the path actually looks like it's quite fun to explore. And what about the squares? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And originally, when I put this together, I was thinking pixels. And when we're so used to looking at screens full of pixels, and when we zoom in or zoom out, sometimes we can see what the image is, and sometimes we can't because of our proximity to the pixels. So it's like a sort of context of whether we're in it. And as a good friend of mine says, when you're in it, you can't see it when you're in it. And when you zoom out a little bit, you suddenly start to see what the picture is. And this little character here, who says, "You are here," to me that has a reference to like a kind of GPS kind of locational thing, like you kind of like you might see on a sat nav or something like this. That this is your place, and. These days, it just seems. Well, I was in London the other day, and I thought, I wouldn't possibly attempt this kind of journey without some kind of GPS. It would just seem ridiculous to even try it. And yet, I remember days when I used to get out my little A to Z and try and hold a torch against it, because it was the text is microscopic, and I just thinking how dangerous and kind of inefficient that was. And now we got the luxury of being able to have someone actually guide us with speech and tell us when to turn, and it's just amazing. And yet, when it comes to wanting to find out where we are in terms of our feelings or what's going on around us or the meaning of relationships, things like that, how in touch with our own kind of GPS system are we? It's not just a matter of just can we connect to something kind of higher or something psychic or something kind of some feeling that might indicate, and it could be our subconscious mind, but how often do we use that intuitive aspect of ourselves to as a first reference? Or how likely are we to maybe ask another person for advice or look to something kind of, I suppose, to use a sort of category, sort of scientific, something that can be verified, when maybe if we take the develop the practice of just trying to use our intuition a little bit more, we may discover some magic. And that's the kind of thing I was discovering on my little trip to France. The verifiable existence of thought connections and things that seem to be, I might have written off as coincidences, seem to be like signposts lighting up in things that people said, in music that I listened to, or events that happened. It seemed like everything had a really, really deep, significant meaning. And while I was here in this context of just doing the same thing every day pretty much, and doing especially lots of computing work, I didn't realize that over the years I'd actually, even though I was here supposedly practicing spiritual methods, I'd actually kind of forgotten or even shut down my sense of being aware of the signals and the subtle kind of interactions and guidance that there was flowing all around me all the time. And in France, because my context had changed, it's like this little character here, because I kind of shifted myself somewhere else, suddenly it gave me a fresh look on what was around me. And there are, let's have a look and see what else we got here. Yeah, so dots. So this pixel idea of when we think we can see what's around us and what it might mean, it might change massively depending on the level that we zoom in. So here we've got an example of some kind of mysterious image. Maybe comes a bit clearer, a bit clearer, a bit clearer. And it's only when we fill in all of those extra layers that we actually get to see what it actually is. And this is quite a classic symbol for how much we really often see of what we think the context is, and then what else there might be to it, which is quite obvious if you just change your perspective. And so what I was experiencing over the last couple of weeks is rather like kind of diving down into this ocean and being aware of all of this stuff, particularly childhood things that I'd prefer that just stayed unseen under the water. And luckily I've met some friends who've helped me kind of have the courage really to just dive down there and see what's down there in the murky depths. And it's been really, really amazing. So there are some very wise people that we can look to for advice who can give us some great tips, like this one particularly from Carl Jung, is really asking not just where am I in terms of my location or the way that I feel right now or the things that I understand, but where am I across time as well. Now here you may have heard some ideas and some of the concept of reincarnation or rebirth. Now I used to think that was an interesting idea, kind of maybe a nice idea, but I didn't have the experience of really knowing whether I really believed it deep down. And I had this experience of really feeling that time from the past, so long ago in the past, really very, very powerfully. And that is a really big aspect of the context, because so often in our daily life there may be things where we need some context. We were asking, what's going on? What does this mean? And it's from a small snapshot, like a tiny slice of our timeline, and we hope to try and understand it on the basis of other little slithers that have just happened just before that slice that we're in the moment. Now, if we take a zoom out of this perspective of this timeline and consider the possibility that whatever is happening right now is directly connected to something that could have happened long, long ago, and see myself and those around me as like travelers through a huge, vast expanse of time, and that this little moment is so precious to be in the present, to be here and now, but there's no way of removing the connection that has actually got me here. It's like that kind of track that I've been on that was exactly as it should be, that has led me here to this moment for some reason. So there being significance in everything, because all of us are all on these tracks that are converging. The fact that we're all here tonight, it might seem like something mundane that we're all just here at the talk at the Global Retreat Centre. But if you imagine over a massive period of time, of many births even, where we've kind of, all our paths are crossing just at this moment, just for like that, and then off we go in our different directions, that every moment we're converging with other souls that we've been on this journey either together or we're coming together at different moments, and it's like these sparks going off as all of these lines intersect and we meet each other. Now, sometimes, well, very often, if we don't notice this, we can miss signals and signs and indications that could change our future. But if we pay absolute attention and be in wonder of the things that others say to us and the things that happen, that this is a signal. And we're constantly asking, deep down, I think, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? What do I need to do? These kind of questions are kind of just inbuilt within us. And the answers are there, all around us, in the expressions of the people that we meet, in the things that pop into our mind that seem to be coincidences, a song that we choose to put on. You know, listen to those lyrics and listen to what people are saying to you, and listen to what you're saying to them and the questions that they ask you. And it's wondrous when you tune into that present moment and have that wonder. It's like you ignite the magic in your life. Excuse me. And you might start sort of having funny moments like this, where emotions start surging through you, when it feels like you're resonating eternally, like there's something like a, you know, those Tibetan bowls that as you just move around them very, very gently, after a few seconds you get this, and it builds up and builds up. It's like this feeling inside, this emotional resonance that you will feel when something feels right or whether something feels wrong. And when you've got this beautiful music inside of you, like is represented with the angels playing a harp, it is so awesome, but it will only happen when you are in yourself, in the moment, and that you know that you are a soul, and that you go on, that this body is constantly changing, but the soul is like your tuning fork inside of you that has a certain resonance. It's like it's got a unique signature, like a musical chord that is unique to you. And no matter which variations that you might have in your different bodies, that chord or that resonant frequency that you have, that is you, that's your signature. And when you interact with others, that are also resonating, it's magical, absolutely magical. So that's why one of the things that is mentioned here as being really important is to keep really good company. Keep company with others who want to really resonate and find out and be, not just find out who they are, but be who they are, and resonate with the truth of the purity of their being. Because any other interaction is superficial, and you may have some useful learning from it, but to resonate together is such an extraordinary feeling, and we mustn't die before feeling that. It's essential. You have to feel it. And don't miss the chance of feeling that feeling. I urge you to. It's such a beautiful thing. So, sorry, I'm sounding like a preacher or something, but I think I probably was in a previous birth. Yeah, so once again, Einstein is urging about asking the right question. So, what is the right question? And to me, it's about context. It's really, who am I? And who am I? And what can I do that is going to make me resonate in a truthful way and resonate with the truth of others? And there's another, well, maybe, I don't know if it's very clear. Is it clear enough to read on the screen? Yeah, sometimes it gets a bit fuzzy. Yeah, so a very wise man. Another thing that he mentioned as well is that if you fail to see the world with awe and wonder, you may as well be dead. And sometimes I look back, particularly over many, many months before I had this big realization in France, that I was pretty much dead, really. I was thinking about spiritual knowledge or information, but my heart wasn't involved. And it was a bit like sitting in a car, moving the wheel around a bit without actually starting the engine. It was like a pointless thing to do. It was just like a child like playing at driving. And this is, I feel, really, really important to feel your heart and feel that heart energy, because I think it's the heart energy that really makes things happen. It's like the current. It's like all these lights here. You know, they could be operating at a certain voltage, but without enough current, they're going to be dim. And when we want the lights to be brighter, they're going to pull that current. There we go, and we get more brightness, and that's a bit like giving something attention. There was an old friend of mine used to use this very good saying, and you may have heard it before. It may be a spiritual talk cliche, so excuse me, but it's a good one, as cliches often are actually. That is that where attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, do you know the last bit? Yeah. So attention is the first kind of motivating aspect. But before you can have attention on something, you have to know where you are first and what the context is before you know what to give attention to. Because we can't give attention to everything. I mean, that's kind of what the role of the ego and the subconscious mind is very much dominated by, is freeing up our consciousness so that we can discover new and interesting things while we don't pay attention to the things that repeat and that we don't really need to keep figuring out all the time. You know, if I sat here, just keep wondering, is this chair You know, is this chair solid? Is this chair going to hold me up? You know, it would be crazy. It would be a total distraction. But there's so many things that we do automatically. Does anyone here clean their teeth with the same hand every morning? Anyone not? Anyone change it? One, different hand each day? Now and again, yeah? Why? Why do you do that? Sorry? Yeah. I mean, it happens. You start doing it before you even know. And what about which side of your mouth do you start cleaning your teeth? Is it the same side by any chance every morning? And these things we just do. It's like we launch ourselves into our lives doing exactly the same thing that we've done before. And there's probably a little tiny bit of our life or our day where we're actually being creative and doing something new or discovering something, unless we choose to. So we're kind of wired up to be running automatically just to make it easy for us to be creative. But then if we put everything on automatic, we kind of lose that interest to be creative. A bit like we see it in self-driving cars. And I sometimes think, well, would that be fun? I quite like driving my car, and it's quite a nice feeling. And what would you do if you weren't driving your car? Would you just be on YouTube all the time, or what would you be doing? Or just sort of like watching someone else live their life while the car's driving itself? And I kind of imagine this sort of future of all these cars just all stuck in this massive great queue, like a car park that all the cars are all moving at the same speed, like a kind of, like you see these bottles in the ocean, all just kind of like stuck together, all moving together like a great big mass of junk. And I thought, if you zoom out from the Earth in the future, that's possibly what it might look like. Just this stuff all just moving around, all these metal boxes, just, carrying useless brown boxes from some dispatch centre to some place that someone doesn't really want this thing anyway. And I was feeling like this creativity that we've all got within us. We have to really, really be precious about it. And music, I find, and any arts. If any of you are interested in any arts, I would encourage you to revitalise that interest. Whether it's, even if it's just picking up a pencil and doing some drawing, anything to activate that right side of your brain, at least, so that you don't become a numb robot, like a self-driving thing that's driven just by your subconscious mind, because your life is so precious and so creative that this is really the joy of our life. And here someone's just walked in who's a creative genius. Now Gudrun can put a twig in a milk bottle and it looks like it should be in a gallery. And she does it with such, just doing that. And that's because she's doing it all the time. And it's just what she does, and she's brilliant at it, and she does it. So, sorry?
It's my vision. It's not because I'm doing it all the time.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, okay. Well, sorry to arrogantly assume that I know what's going on in your mind, but I enjoy seeing anything you do like that. It's just fantastic how it comes together. But the point is that whatever it is you have an inclination like that, some kind of creativity, whether it's music or art or dance or just to, even if you're not doing it yourself, at least enjoy it and see the magic in it, the way that those certain chords make you feel, the certain lyrics make you feel, or the way someone moves, or the colours in some art, the way it transports you, and enjoy the magic of it, because all of these things are to hint to us that our life really is magical, and not to miss it. If we miss it, I think we may only really be aware of it in the last moments. but we've got this chance now to notice it and really enjoy it and play with it. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Anyway, I'm about probably 5% through my slides here, so I better get a move on. Now, does anyone know who this character is with 2 extra arms? Typically, this character is referred to as Vishnu or Lord Vishnu. And there are many descriptions of what these symbols and what these ornaments or these tools represent. And we use it here in the traditional Brahma Kumari's teaching, in India especially. And it's not something that is seen so regularly here, but I think it's worth having a look at, because sometimes these signals are spelt out so clearly to us, but we may miss them. Now, in the finger that's pointing up, you see this thing that looks like something spinning. Can you see that clearly on the slide? Now, this thing that's spinning is his awareness of time and events and past, present, and future, all accessible at the tip of his finger. Now, the tip of his finger represents his conscious awareness, that he's focused on the present, but he's also aware of all events in the past and the future. And knowing that, it gives him a sense of, you could say, context of the present moment in relation to all other time. Now, this is really important, this relationship, because context only has any value in terms of relationship. Because if you may know where you are in terms of a geographical location, but if you don't have any sense of what is near you or around you and what that represents, or how you can make the best of it, it's not even very relevant. It would just be like a coordinate. So the relationship with the events and circumstances around you is absolutely crucial. Now, in his other hand here, he's got this shell, which is known as a conch shell. Now, this is traditionally used as like a trumpet in battle, like a kind of something that amplifies sound, like a call. And it's a particular sound that has a certain meaning to it. And when that sound is heard, it can be carried across huge distances. And so this represents a way of sort of broadcasting a message with absolute certainty and clarity of what this means. So traditionally in battles, this kind of thing would symbolize that the battle's commencing, or a retreat, or something like this, some kind of signal that everyone would know what it meant. And so something that happens like this is that when I use this conch shell and I say to you, let's do a little experiment. Right? I invite you to close your eyes and be right in the present moment. And how does it feel when I say that you don't just have a soul, but you are the soul? You are always the soul. Circumstances change around you. Your features change. Your locations change, but you are always the soul. It's like a compass inside of you that's guiding you. And it's like a light inside of you that never goes out. Your signature, your unique signature. Absolutely who you are. Okay, now I'll put the conch shell down. And did that resonate with anyone? Yeah, getting a few nods. And so if we listen to what resonates, if we hear someone kind of blowing a conch shell of something truthful, like if they're saying something that really resonates with us, that really helps us, because we know that's a signal that can help us with our context and know where we are in relation to others around us and how they can help guide us. Now, the sort of gold shaft that you can just see at the bottom there, just above the wing, it's not so easy to see it there, but this is called a mace, and another word for it may be, in European language, might be a scepter, and it's a combination of something that signifies royalty and also authority, and it's also used to be a battlefield instrument as well, like that would, in mythical tales, wielding this kind of baton thing, you could just wave this and it would just knock down walls and things like that. But this rod, this golden rod, this shaft, this powerful shaft that symbolizes this authority, my feeling of it is that when you're holding this shaft of authority, it's like you're really in yourself, in your own spiritual self-respect and power, and it's like you become an invincible warrior, and in like a beacon, something that's kind of runs right through you as you're holding it, rather like Vishnu's balancing or holding this spinning disc in his tip of his finger. He's gripping also this shaft. It's kind of a symbol of being fully connected and holding on to that truth and power in yourself. Now, the other symbol is a lotus flower. And very, very beautiful, delicate flower that you will have seen in lots of spiritual art, and especially popular in Buddhism. Now, something very interesting about the lotus, in Egypt, it was often shown in spiritual art and in engravings and things as being closed. And also in Catholicism, or Christianity, the pine cone is also used as a reference, rather like the lotus flower. And these things, they open when the time is right, and otherwise they're absolutely closed and very, very strong things. So the lotus flower will grow, and it will grow through a muddy kind of water and a muddy environment, and it will stay absolutely closed, so the mud can't get into it, and it will rise up as it grows through the mud, and it will stay closed until it reaches the surface, and then when it reaches the surface, it will open up, and then you see the beautiful flower. But until it comes through the surface, you wouldn't know that there was this beautiful flower that is emerging from the opening. And so this represents this journey of the soul, that we have to go through this kind of darkness and not really knowing where we are, but with the confidence that if we keep going, we're going to break through the surface. And when we break through the surface, there'll be this enlightened moment where it's like our self, the soul, the petals of the soul will open, and we'll be like this beautiful, radiant flower, just at the right time. But we have to be patient that it will happen when it's the right time, and we have to know that this flower is in there. So it's very symbolic of the journey. Now, all of these symbols are often associated with the qualities of God. That it's God that has all of these things, that it's God that has authority, God that has purity and the beauty, and God that gives a message to humanity through the conch shell, and that is aware of all existence. But what is taught here is that we too have that potential within us. And it's not just that we have that potential, but we have had that experience of being full of all of these qualities. So time has really zoomed on. So I invite you again. We usually do open-eyed meditation, but I find for visualization purposes, now and again, it's really quite useful to close your eyes. So whichever you prefer to do, let's just have a little meditation on these things, these aspects, which are sometimes called weapons, and they're sometimes called tools, and they're sometimes called gifts, and they're sometimes called ornaments. So any of them can be used at any time for any different reason, depending on the context. So that's why you need to be fully in tune with yourself, so that you know that you've got all of these at your disposal, but you need to know when to use them. And if you do make the odd mistake, then that's just learning. But ultimately, your peace and your feeling of contentment will be represented in this way, where you're so balanced and complete and in tune with yourself that you know exactly who you are, you have that authority and that confidence, and when you do share things with others, they will resonate that with you. So let's have a little meditative moment. Okay, if you visualize the mace, that golden shaft, and at the same time, take your awareness from this body in this room into a cave of your consciousness in your mind, rather like stepping back from your physical self into your mind. Now visualize this golden shaft of light running right through the center of your being. It's like your spine itself becomes like a golden shaft. And this golden shaft, with your awareness holding it tightly, starts to resonate. And it resonates like a Tibetan bowl would do, or a whole set of Tibetan bowls, playing like a beautiful chord, resonating in all of your energy centers. And in your brow, or behind your eyes, you feel like there's this gently spinning disc that contains everything you ever have been and everything you will be, all your experiences, and that everything is exactly as it should be, right now and in the past and in the future. It will just be exactly perfect, even if the things that felt like they shouldn't have been that way in the past, they were all perfect from the lessons that were learnt. Now think of that lotus flower, that inside you is that potential of absolute beauty and greatness that is gradually working its way through a confusing world and a confused state of being. And it's gradually becoming clearer and clearer. And you feel like your consciousness, your mind is expanding and opening up, where you can sense the light above you through the water. Like you can see the sunlight coming through. And as you approach the surface of the water, gradually just break through and the petals start to open. And as the petals open, you look upwards into the blue sky. And it feels like you've arrived. But then the feeling that there's a higher feeling that you can experience, more expanded state. And you sense that beyond the blue sky, there is another sky beyond that sky. And your awareness flies up like a bird, up and up and up and up into the sky beyond this sky. And now you're in a place that feels like it's where you belong, like you've even come from this place, like you're a star in a constellation of stars looking down on the earth. And it feels so peaceful to be there. And at the same time, there's a feeling of wanting to come back into the physical world and bring all that you know you are into the world and be fully alive. And be in your body and be in the world, but know that you're not limited in that way, that you're not of the world. You are in the world and in this body, but you are from a much, much vaster place and understanding and consciousness. Like a bright light. So just hold that feeling for a moment. Like you're coming down to land, ready to merge back in with this physical body. Like two perfect companions, the soul and the body, working together. You just have to remember who you are. So tomorrow morning, another little practice you could do is clean your teeth with the opposite hand, look directly into the mirror and remind yourself who you are. I am a beautiful, peaceful soul, and I love you. And really, really mean it and feel it. Look into the eyes that you see in the mirror and really make sure that soul knows that it is loved so much. Thank you. Om Shanti.